relationships between men and women today and the influence of technology, for better or for worse. I'm Alex Ansary. That's our topic for the moment. It is December 4th, 2018. So I'm really going to give this some thought because there's the positive and the negative. We have people that may meet online because of a similar interest, and today's technologies, it enables that type of a meetup. There may be people that have some very specialized interests, so the possibility is there. We've also seen, though, how technology has been used to be an interface in general between men and women. Social media is a great example. There's a reason I left Facebook. Some people probably think that I blocked them. Some people also hold grudges over things like that. I prefer to not use Facebook. And I realized that I'm not alone in seeing how Facebook and social media, one could even say YouTube. Certainly there's been pluses and minuses. The greater reality is that, first of all, there's a certain amount of dopamine that comes from the social media connection. So that's why some people may prefer it, because they can get more of it in stronger doses. And there's that type of sensation that comes from being on certain types of websites. Technology can inform, right? There could be social media websites where people can intermingle and connect. So the logistics are there, but what is the effect of the things that people are consuming on technology or things of the technological world? So I just want to talk about the period before I was born, the period before some of you were born. And there was a time where people knew each other growing up, whether it be a small town or a larger community. I want to have the window up for this video. I'm obviously trying to change things up energetically within my own living space to keep the energy moving forward, because this is not a channel that is strictly political. I don't like those types of labels. And I've always been passionate about discussing relationships because there's a part of my consciousness that feels that it understands the plight that we're in this fallen world and why so many people are unhappy. Having that knowledge doesn't necessarily mean that someone lives a exciting life themselves. One could live a life where they have a certain type of intellectual pursuit or interest, and that may, at least for a time, mean more to them than sex and dating and even a sense of community. There aren't really even any males or guys, bros in my life. My life right now is focused on these videos and somewhat of a relationship, at least energetically, that I have with my audience. And audience members pop up and go away all the time, but I believe that I'm someone to reveal at least certain perspectives. So technology today has taken a lot of men and women away from a natural rite of passage to where they're meeting at places where they both know and where they're both from. And it's more complicated than it just being that. But technology as an interface first has certain obvious side effects, especially when people develop shorter attention spans with social media, and it becomes so much of a chasing of the dopamine and attention from others. And so the attention whore mentality, unfortunately, can come out with the social media influence, whether someone's male or female. So certain ways of interacting with this technology, I would caution against, even from a truth speaker's perspective, right? Certain things, certain levels of engagement, the person speaking truth shouldn't do or shouldn't try to engage. Certain levels of desire, for example, that certain people get it. The intention from my part should just be to throw out the truth regardless of how it's understood at the moment and to think about future generations. So as I do that, I also have to be detached from the current generation and how people of the moment today will receive this. I've said for years also that there could be an event, like a solar event, that wipes out technology, that restores relationships, that also unfortunately could be a source of chaos and bad things, but it restores relationships on a level between people because the people around us is going to be the thing that matters most, not some inflated sense of value. And so with today's technology and internet, cryptocurrency, by the way, is a value based on the value that people place in it. Same thing with certain pages online. They all have their own constructs. And I'm not necessarily saying that's bad. It's, I think, what we do with it. What we do with these relationships, what people do with the energy that they receive online. I look at some of these people that are in the alternative media. What is their message? They're reaching thousands of people. Are they really trying to enlighten them with deeper ideas, try to help them get beyond the illusions of separation? Or are they trying to send them these false solutions? And if so, what can we learn from these individuals? So money isn't inherently evil, but it's very corrupting. And it's corrupted relationships. It's corrupted the family unit and structure. Millennials, by the way, they say that they're committing or offing themselves at a higher than average rate because they're broke, and a lot of them are in debt to student loans. And I would say the generation that I'm a part of, I was born in 1980, so older than the millennials, very unromantic period in time. And I don't hear people really talk about that. And so a lot of people don't want to have their heart broken. There's a lot of people that are, I'll just say it, under mind control. And I'm saying men and women, women and men. I certainly don't have a very high opinion of a lot of men. So, hey, if I was a truth or female, for example, looking for like a man in a truth, I wouldn't exactly view the, there's people out there. But a lot of people have a long way to come before they're actually on the spiritual path. And I know that I myself am no longer interested in just whatever's out there. So there's a reason why I've gone my own way, and there's a reason why I'm able to live here off the grid on my acre by myself for long periods of time. And it's been a process. It's been a process. It's been a process of clearing. It's been a process of dealing with my own stuff, even stepping away from social media and all of these contacts with women all over the world through social media. No longer. And I was never really all that super active anyways with regards to talking to a lot of people, maybe just a few. But there came a realization in my own life only recently, and I've been off the grid multiple years now, that the relationships or friendships moving forward, they wouldn't be based in Facebook. Because there was just something like inherently wrong with that. And then looking at like my whole history of being a truth speaker, and I think there's different levels. You could be a truth seeker, a truth speaker, and I don't think there's a lot of shades of gray in between. I think the idea is to jump into sharing your truth with others. But truth is ultimately what we're talking about. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but when people are following a certain level of truth or seeking it, that's going to alienate others that don't want to hear about what's going on. So technology on another level, even though it has its positive sides, talk about Craigslist in a little bit. Technology is very influential. And before all this mass media mind control, people made their minds up about people, in some cases from other parts of the world, based on their own experiences. And I'm not saying in all cases, but even with a country that's called and marginalized as highly racist, I would say that the past, or the generation that my father grew up in, for example, or the period in which he lived in Portland, was way more welcoming than the one in which his son would be born into. Now, a lot of people don't want to hear that. That's too bad. The greater reality is America has some golden days behind it. Some really amazing things have happened to people in this country, some of which came from all over the world. Before 9/11 and after the 1940s and 1950s, but even going even earlier, many generations of immigrants from all over have come to call America home. But for those of the less white assortment, You could say that there has been some golden years for some people to make something of their life and follow the American dream. You know what part of that is? It's love. And there's a period in time before the modern millennial direction, or period, in which there were more love songs. I've talked about this often. Up Where We Belong, and other ballads that we are actually programmed to laugh at now. Other things that were popular in the late 1970s, although we're not talking about solar flares, because I do have a unique perspective. Again, subscribe if you're new. Remember to hit the little red bell and be notified of new uploads. I believe that the sun is a spiritual being that is very well likely connected with the true creator, although it may not be. It may just be one of the creator's expressions. And this sun is something that I think is also responsible for the transport of ideas as well as souls in and out of this realm. And a video on relationships, I wasn't planning to get deep into this, but there are certain influences that the sun brings. And as I just said, the rays of life, literally the seeding of humanity, generations of souls. And there are some spiritual texts that talk about this. So there was a particular generation that came in before ours. That is of my mother's generation, other people that lived throughout the 60s and 70s, and we're of another generation. So there's other things that we may go through for reasons that are not explained to us by the people of our generation. And I'm going to go ahead and take care of this so we have a little less light interference. As enlightening as the topic may be, right? So I want to continue on this point. Kind of recenter here. Also, I have a Himalayan salt lamp. I like to have, I want to segue topics within the larger topic. I like to have things like this around to help me ground when I'm around technology. Technology could be great for putting out an idea, but there's so many things that lock us in the left-right paradigm and man versus woman. And with the internet also, I'm going deeper into the idea than I normally go. You see, because with technology now, people could be contaminated with other people's issues and other people's stuff. There might be some great things from Sandman, for example. Then there's some stuff that I'll hear that I consider offensive. There's things, by the way, all this is outside the box of MGTOW. And the reason why is because there is no healing from, a false understanding as to why things are the way that they are. And there are certain people that are influential within that arena. And within even men's rights, there are certain people that assume that things are the way that they are from their perspective of loneliness. There is no true community from just lonely people finding each other. Weaker ones can pull the stronger one down into their illusions of separation and where they're at. One has to be careful. I didn't know that years ago. I've learned since. Trust me, it wasn't the females that were the trolls with regards to the MGTOW content. So it can actually attract then a lot of males that are angry about what they don't have, and they've been programmed already. Like I said this years ago, that I was theorizing that elements of lonely men could be radicalized and other people could basically recruit them because of their own loneliness and their own fallout with women. And they could be brainwashed. I think this is where the greatest deception is, to think that the other men or other ethnicities are getting it all. And the media can reinforce certain things. And it goes pretty deep. But I'll notice how they pit white against black, but also promote black and white relationships, romantic, to piss people off in the media. In the media, they're projecting this to piss people off in society that don't want to see that. That's my opinion. Because if it was really about diversity, there'd be greater expressions of, and there would be like things being addressed that are happening now, like people being demonized that are of mixed race, and how some of these people, that have been promoting some of these narratives that have marginalized so many, how the algorithms on YouTube and social media and Twitter promote those types of ideals. instead of it actually being opposed. So someone could actually be talking about something, and even people in the chat rooms and the chatter down below in the comment section, oh yeah, this. And the real algorithm could be promoting those videos. And so technology could contaminate relationships between men and women if those men and women are being brainwashed. Does that make sense? Does this make sense? Why would it not make sense? Why would it not be happening? Now, there's going to be some people that say, no, Alex, I totally disagree, and I have some of these particular views. But you know what? I've been around for a number of years. People were talking certain levels of trash 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Certain things have happened in the world, controlled levels of things in Europe, and then boom, there's this in-your-face, whoa, bro, that's way more information that I need to hear. Opinions from others about what other people do in their bedroom or what other people are doing as far as bringing children in this world. You would have thought that we move forward in this world instead of backward. So a real topic about male and female relationships in this world deals with how white women, if they have a child that's not also white, they're seen as an enemy to their own people. And it's seen as this grand conspiracy against nature or even against the true creator. There are even people out there that will refer to certain types of humans as products of the archons or aliens. This level of propaganda we have seen before. We have seen that level of propaganda. I'm here to tell you that on this channel, we do talk about the unseen realms. We do talk about things that could be perceived aliens. We talk about archons, but we don't mix it in with the ethnicity. It's about the content of one's character. And so I'm telling you now, and I don't know whether some of us have past lives in Nazi Germany. I think that it's possible that some of us actually recognize the energy signature of a society that goes down a very dark, dark road. And so it's important that people know about the real new world order, which has been in existence. It hasn't gone away just because George W. Bush has passed, a man who's being celebrated. But there is a war on the mind and spirits of women. They bring in the vessels of life. And if the vessels of life brought in by the women that are alive today, if those vessels of life are demonized or will find themselves facing certain levels of online demonization in the years ahead, you tell me how this is going to impact their relationships, or if they have any at all. Or if they have any at all, because this is what I see. I see a very dark world that has created a lot of isolation for a lot of us. But there's a darker programming on the web that'll tell people that group has taken your women. It's not the programming of society. It's not the new world order. It's not the economics. It's the people that don't look like you. Or it's the fact that And it's like the internet right now is functioning as a weapon. It's like they literally put out the candy for a while, and then all of a sudden something else was rolled out. Something else was rolled out. Candy is often used, right, to lure children into cars with strangers. Well, you know what I see? I see a world in which stranger danger. They use certain people. You can actually learn a lot from certain people in the alternative media that have put out a lot of lies that have ended up really popular with like 500,000 views. You should study the art of how people, right, certain people out there, are very popular because they come in the form of just like their own people. All American. Maybe sometimes they'll have the American flag right behind them as a sigil. And no one will really seem to know what's going on. And it's almost as if an evil of spirit is animating flesh with a certain individual and certain individuals that I don't even have to name. Some people just get it. There are people that get the idea of someone selling their own soul on a level that people weren't even noticing 10 years ago, because you know what, 10 years ago, some of those people weren't even acting like they are now. It was a different situation. And hey, it became really cool, right, for them to act like they were anti-establishment when it was Obama in office. You see, but when Obama was in office and I was calling him a puppet, that wasn't my first rodeo. I got started under Bush. I wasn't waiting for an Obama to arrive for me to all of a sudden act like I have some beef with the affairs in the American government, the White House, I wasn't waiting for Obama to realize something was wrong. It was obvious when it was Bush. So, here we are now, and I can say as an individual, I've walked away from the online dating scene. I've walked away from seeking. I haven't become a fundamentalist. And I care more about women as time goes on, seeing what is on the horizon for them. But there's a difference. There's a difference between chasing one's tail in the modern dating scene and saying and doing the things that can help people with information. That's the love in which I'm expressing itself to people all over across the world that come across my videos. But I can understand how this world will try to diminish our value on the other end, whether it be some of the people that we are pursuing romantically, or why some of us encounter dark synchronicities to where it almost seems as if the universe is plotting against us, or that certain things tend to happen a certain way to bring on the heartbreak and bring on that sense of rejection on that level to that person. And we could find ourselves, and you can find yourself, right, facing a certain level of opposition, trying to find the one that's right for you. There's something about this world that in our own lives, in a unique energy signature way, I think there's something that works against us. But even within that awareness, and we're going super spiritual here, there is the way of the Sufi, there is the way of the mystic, there is the way of the monk, there is the way of the Buddha, there is the way of the nun, there is the way of the individual that goes their own way, the man and woman, a spiritual path away from lust. This is traditional. And this is not something, this is a part of the traditional spiritual expression, walking away from the temptations of the modern world. Our world right now is so fallen. I say this to the future generation as well as the present. That if someone like me was to talk about going beyond the material plane, we're easily marginalized in some box. Without those people that are hearing what we're saying about modern relationships, understanding what we're saying spiritually, and going above and beyond gender warfare. So this world, this fallen world that we are in for some reason, has certain laws of physics. That doesn't mean that those laws can't be broken. That doesn't mean that certain codes of the matrix can't be broken. But there are certain basic rules of thumb in which most men and most women, they're going to view reality and they're going to perceive things. It certainly isn't me hating men or hating my own gender, right? If I'm not going to be drinking some Kool-Aid and saying, the men of today are really progressive. They're really addressing things in a real tough guy sense. Yeah, all that football and MMA, and they're really ready to take on the new world order. In fact, no, they're laying down more than ever. They'll cut their brother's throat out of somebody said on YouTube or some little comment section, more so than coming to their brother's back. People literally looking into literally the false light of social media that's telling them who their ethnic enemy is. They're under attack. They're coming for ya. And it's the ultimate whoa, this is obvious hypnosis. Future generations will see this. And they'll see what they did to people deliberately through those smartphones. I can see literally and feel that sense of madness within the male collective. So in no way am I batting for it. In no way am I batting for it. But let me tell you, the spirit of evil works in this world. It'll call any man that's trying to help women evolve spiritually a misogynist. Speak against any evil in this world and speak of their true powerful sense. You could be called a misogynist for not being in line with the consensus reality. They make that a bad thing now. Oh, what? Somebody can ask in today's society, you're not sticking your you-know-what into somebody's you-know-what? What are you, gay? And there are literally people that are of average intelligence and consciousness in this immediate area that think just like that. People that have literally worked alongside as a fry cook at a low and greasy spoon joint. I mean, there's actually other reasons why I work way below the poverty line for $4 a day, if you want to know what it is that this averages out to, and why I live below the poverty line, and why I try to live off just a few $100s a month. It's the broken, toxic relationships and mindsets, even in the workplace, and the workplace bullying. And how many times, no offense to people that have worked in middle management or food and beverage, I'm talking about the ones that I've worked for, I've seen some of the worst. These men that are promoted to middle management, food and service, the ones that I've worked for at the restaurants in Portland, at Ruth Chris Steakhouse, at the Benson, at other places. How many stories of people that I've directly worked for where they having sex with staff? Here again, we see the archetype of the man in power who has the ability to hire and fire a cutie. And it becomes normalized. Moving on in free flow to my next topic, it's not healthy for women and their children, male or female, to adopt to the ways of normalized prostitution. Normalized prostitution is where it's all about the money or the perception of money based on programming. And so much of that could be escalated via technology and via other things that they control. They can jack up the price of rent. Oh, all of a sudden, certain things and certain people are no longer viewed the same way because of the cost of rent. And we can put in some other metaphor, because of the cost of tea, because of the cost of flour, because of the cost of, where they control the cost, they can control the cost of rent, they can control the availability of homes. Entire societies could be socially engineered. There could be socially engineering of a society to be in romance and have a family and have certain values and not screw each other over. And they can have the post-nuclear family reality after Up Where We Belong, and it's bringing on the heartbreak, as energetically speaking, spiritually speaking, now that I'm on my little soapbox here and standing, which is... I got to do this because it's getting the energy, my chi flowing way more than sitting down at a desk. So I was facing burnout in that position, by the way. Burnout. Standing up, it's a different. So we're going to flow with this. I don't know why it took me so long, but today's a day where I'm standing up and I'm speaking my truth. I've talked about the breakup of the family. First of all, reality in conjunction with the death of the farm. These are things that I've actually lived through, having grown up in a single parent household, but also seeing my grandparents sell the farm in which I lived on the property with my mother. That's another story. I will write an autobiography. But there's like multiple different dynamics to that and things I've experienced and people of our generation. And people that came before us had a lot more space. There were some traditional values of value. It wasn't all about controlling women in the society. There literally was a sense of more wealth. And as they've controlled our economy and put us in a greater sense of debt, it's really altered the fundamental consciousness of today's human to the point where, okay, the family units seem necessary to them to get the population up to a certain level. Then there almost seems to be a purpose in breaking up the families and removing them from the farmlands and getting them into the urban areas. And then the next generation. Now, the next generation that follows the fatherless and the motherless, the generation that follows, right? So where it's just like biology, people are almost like products of the state, to where there is no real like mother and father balance. And I believe somebody could grow up and be okay in a single parent household if they have a strong enough spirit, or if their parents have their head screwed on straight, or even if they don't, that kid, he or she may grow up, right? There's plenty of stories where people have been abused as children and they grow up and they invent things or they create their own businesses. And sometimes it's that early life trauma, there's a metaphor in this, micro to macro, that helps catapult them to something greater. So those of us that aren't feeding our lusts and desires for someone else to be there all the time in our life, whereas some of us may have been involved in the past, we may be involved with someone in the future, but the moment or for a number of years, we may be working on that which we're really passionate about. We're able to go beyond and at a level in which most people are not. Most people are not. Of course, with me leaving Portland and going to rural Southwest Colorado or the Four Corners, I know the dating prospects go from here to, and especially if you're a guy like me with ideas expressed on this channel, that does the process of elimination very, very quickly. And most people don't know that unless they actually walk in my shoes and talk about really unique things that some people, it sounds really interesting. He seems to really believe it, but I don't know. It seems a little bit, good luck with that. So, to me, the truth and sharing that truth with men and women, males and females of human form and not human form that are also watching YouTube, don't think that we're alone in the universe, that is a bigger role for me to play than to be loving one person, than to be loving this one thing. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. And there are a lot of people out there, and I don't blame them. I mean, it is the natural dynamic of human psychology. I'm not innocent. If someone gets involved with someone, it could be the natural inclination for one person to want to marry the other, or the other person to show them a certain level of maybe love beyond just lust, or for it to move beyond just friendship stage. A certain level of connection, and that's natural. There also might be a way in which people end up codependent or try to compensate because of their lack of connection with themselves, unresolved issues with their parents, and ultimately a energetically polluted city that they're living in could be infecting them on another level. They may really be seeking out someone because their energy is weak in that terrain or in that region, or it's turbulent. And there can be other things. I speak from experience and also think about things that other people go through. Somebody could be going through spiritual attack, energy attack, because they're waking people up in a major metropolitan area where there's a lot of slaves, and I'll even say it, sex slaves. People that are slaves of their own lust, but also regions in which people literally are trafficked. And so being that I got out of Portland, Oregon, which is a hotbed of not only paranormal activity, sex trafficking, but dystopian realities in the future, I was speaking directly to people that I think are going to be directly facing future challenges. Also people that are hearing me that are in California. I think that there's a deeper secreticity why some people find my work, even a deeper reason why some people resent it. And so looking at it from that perspective, and people often resent the truth or the person that is telling them how it is, and even in some cases where their programming is coming from, whether they're on the far right or whether they're on the far left, that there is something that both the left and the right can learn from the things that I'm saying from an independent perspective. Now, I keep jumping from topic to topic, but is it that the point to share as much as I feel about the topic? How about politics and relationships? So my mother's parents, they were of different political parties. My grandmother was a Democrat that watched CNN. My grandfather was a Republican who loved George Bush. And they did divorce at one point, hence the Death of the Family chapter that'll one day be an autobiography, and all the different factors that may have led up to that, and really the harsh world that not only educated me, but also scarred me, and the learning that I went through. But I know that at the root level of the consciousness of myself that sought romance and sought love, not the typical lust experiences, or for them to only result in one night stands, but to truly have a sense of union with someone, to me that always came from wanting to create a sense of peace in a world of disorder. You know what I mean? Almost like a sense of spiritual magic, like two people coming together, no pun intended, but two people literally, and especially if there was consciousness infused, of which I've never really experienced in this life, but the idea of two aligned together, both sharing truth together. I've seen a lot of deceptions and a lot of things that came kind of prancing in as things that could have been that, but weren't. And there are also things, although I don't have to get super personal or dirty, there's certain ways in which people can be, I wasn't really planning to go deep into the spiritual warfare dynamics of human sexuality, but the greater reality is certain people could be sent in by lower forces. All of a sudden they're attracted. All of a sudden they're interested. All of a sudden they're sending a message. Yeah, because there's a part of them that's turned on. And there's something within human biology. This is where Eve Lorgen, the love bite, it goes into that. They could be flipped on and flipped off. And some people could be flipped on just to distract someone or create the heartbreak. And I think this is probably more common than is ever spoken about. Where the supernatural meets the relationships, folks, it's not exactly mayonnaise and strawberry jam. It really is just like the cheese and the burger. Some things do go together in concepts. They really, really do. And this world is so cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, it'll straight up try to offer you some dish saying, yeah, mayonnaise totally goes over ice cream. No, it doesn't. Mayonnaise doesn't go over ice cream. So some of the ways in which people view relationships and things not working out, who's to blame, if someone's to blame, if all the white women are really going brown. I mean, some of the things that are being said out there are so asinine and are actually not a representation of the collective. But we are being attacked by evil forces that aim to tear our world apart. Let's continue. So also keep in mind that they have made hardcore pornography more available to younger people, to where when we were 10, 11, 12, 13, I'm 38 at the moment, things were VHS tape. You had to be 18 to do certain things or to go into certain places. Okay? Although when I was young, I did try to learn about certain things early on. Of course, this is a world where there's a lot of learning to do. And the way the human expresses itself sexually is one of those unique forms of expression, I'll tell you. A bunch of freaks up in this form of hell. It's very educating to learn about consciousness and to learn about world affairs and how people create their reality, but also the partners that people pick in this world and why. And the nature of how other forces of influence and media control can influence what people are into and not into. There are certain times in which, through media, they can speak to the women of the world and say, these are the desirable men, and these are the ones you want to stay away from. And there can also be things that are put out there in the fake news wire to confuse people, as far as to suggest that women of our culture are trying to join ISIS, or those individuals that are associated with ISIS. And I don't really buy that. And any story that may be legitimate where an American white girl may have been talking to someone overseas, I would highly be suspicious of mind control or some other form of entrapment. But there are certain things that I've noticed rise in the newswire that actually have a potential deliberate effect to demonize the white woman on a whole number of levels. Now, why would there be an attempt to do that as we're being moved out of the farms, as they destroy the family, and all these other things, and to demonize what she's into and all these other things, while also perverting reality and demonizing the unique forms of life that are going to be on the planet in larger numbers that are less white. We're also programmed that this somehow is reducing the value of society. All these things are coming now, and all these things are forming in a collective thought form what will be of the future. And what will be of the future is also written by what the men and women allow. What has been allowed since 9/11. How many millions of people are being removed off the planet in large numbers that are no longer being counted? What type of root ideologies allows such silence? Events like 9/11. And events like whatever is happening in Europe, and those that are controlling it, is paving the way of the psychologies of the men and women of this culture in the world, of how those people will be treated tomorrow as they're removed by another few million. And what this is literally doing is also continuing to contaminate everything. I mean, this is like a prison planet. How romantic is this? Like I've said before in past videos, look, if you opened up the jail cells of the penitentiaries and it just, come on in, women, join your men in the prison, it would look like the way people act in modern society. What do I mean by that? A lot of people act like all hard and stuff now. You know, a lot of people, oh, look at me, my big old SUV, look at me with my tats. Look at me, I'm gonna act like I'm a gangster, from a white guy version to a black guy version, to a Hispanic version, to a dude who has some expression of large metal testicles on the back end of this friggin' truck. I mean, you want to see idiocracy, where people's idea of YouTube and what they're focused on, it's like that scene from the movie to where, oh, my balls, and everything is laughing and jackass. Ooh, we're gonna fight in the streets, but not talk about the real issues. But people are gonna be watching something to the tune of thousands. Look at the things that do really well on YouTube. And so for me, it's hard to, although the body's lustful, and we could certainly, the body and just lust mode can go, oh yeah, all those women, yep, totally would do that. But then there's the other side that goes, you would want to bed down with forms of life that basically have no compassion for all these people that are being removed off the planet. And when I started having that type of epiphany, my relationship energetic with women changed. And it was no longer about what the lower areas were interested, whether I sensed actually heart-mind connection from them and a sense of them being intuitive to see me for who I am. Not the voices in the head, not the negative vibes that can be induced by technology and Facebook, but the man that I am. And having realized that there's very few that do, and this would include blood relatives, realizing that it even includes blood. Someone could literally be on a certain truth-speaking path to where they're speaking truth at a level to where most people want to tune that out and get away with it, away from it. Getting away, though, with their, you can call them sins. I rather call it form of unconscious behavior. But because a person cannot unhear something once they've heard it, there's going to be a lot of men and women naturally that are going to want to get away from the person that's speaking truth. I'm sure there are women that have had their own experience. I'm sure there's plenty of good women out there, especially of the generation that just passed. They're in their older years that may have written books, that may have gone a certain way, and maybe they were told by men of the day, well, women have their place. Women have their place. And it's right here in my lap, honey. Shh. But they're like, no, I'm a woman. I have like dignity. I'm not like some piece of this. This is who I am. This is who I am. This is my book. These are my books. This is the world that I'm creating for myself. Not going to be someone's bitch. Well, you know what? There's a male version of that. And I'm living it. And the male version of that doesn't go, oh, she's cute. Okay, I'm not going to talk about my YouTube channel. I'm just going to be like, hey, maybe we can have some coffee and hang out. Oh, you feeling good? Oh, well, how are you doing? Well, let's make it about you, princess. And it's like, no, that is actually emasculating. To be masculine is to be in one's power and to be in one's truth. And if someone isn't down with that truth or attracted to that, I'm still not going to change. Not going to change. So it's not about becoming a fundamentalist and saying, oh, I'm never going to date again, or I'm MGTOW. Let me just get the tattoo and brand it. Yeah, look up Alex Hanstry on Autosuggest on YouTube, but it's going to point you at MGTOW. Let's just get away from the geopolitics, and let's just get away from solar flares. Let's make it about some box. And it's like, this world is foul. This world is foul. You try to help the world see the fallen state of male-female relationships, right? You'll be called a white knight by one group. You'll be called a misogynist by another. And those are usually like terms that are thrown at two different groups, kind of like left versus right. And it's like, whoa, man, this is like a angry sea of sperm and egg biology. Now, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. This human experience is pretty freaking limited. You don't have to go in this direction of the earth is flat to realize this world's an illusion. This world is simulation. These cannot be the real men and women. This has got to be like some sort of an imitation of where people go and date in like a higher realm. Because I swear there's got to be a planet B or a new earth or a parallel earth or a parallel reality to where it's natural. What is natural? People that may even have been born different being attracted to each other. And their children being brought up in the world that's going to encourage their gifts and their talents as they evolve forward with new ideas and information as the cycles of the sun pass and pass. How many children grow up with loving parents that tell them about the influence of the passing of the solar cycles? How many people just opt to just throw their hands up in the air, send them to school, send them to a religion? Or maybe just send them to the kids section of YouTube, which I've heard has become increasingly perverted in recent years. But I've said my piece. I think that this should probably be like a regular conversation, and I'm not in a limited position in the chair, talking in front of the table, using the table as a barrier between us. No, there doesn't need to be any more barrier at this point. I'm doing something totally weird and bizarre. Sometimes I really wonder why I'm doing this, because there's a part of my life that, yes, I would be happy in a relationship being a different type of Alex, earning a certain amount of money to have a comfortable bedroom and maybe even to have a child. And instead, I opted to go my own way on a spiritual level, not in a typical gender warfare level. And it was based on seeing how the work that I've done here has alienated even the people that brought me into the world. Coming from that perspective in childhood, moving into adulthood, and never even really having community and being moved around, I've never even really known what love is. I've never even really known what it is like to see a conscious world shifting and appreciating some of the good men that do exist. I've seen, in fact, just one big counterfeit billboard. Call here for, I'm giving an example here, drug and alcohol prevention. You call in and they're like offering like, dude, let's go party. This world has a lot of mixed messages. But there is a part of me that feels like it's lived before, or at least is tapped in with my ancestry on both sides, and with that, there would be a lot of history, a great deal of history to feel, to analyze, to bring up on the DNA code and go, that's quite an experience. The times in which we've come out of are not entirely barbaric and patriarchal. There were times of greater natural romance amongst the species, believe it or not. Are we going to be able to ever return there? Or is it going to continue to be in strong decline? Male-female relationships. Is this related to the sun? Is this related to solar minimum? Is this just related to social media? These questions and more I will continue to raise.